Welcome to the ANA Mustangs channel. Today I'm going to be installing the rear QA1 coilover suspension on the 1971 Challenger. Let's get to it.
Music bed.
First thing that I did was, well, I had put on the wheels from my 67 Mustang, same bolt pattern as the Challengers here. So I think I'm gonna go with the Riddler brand, just because on the front I tried a bunch of different wheels and they didn't clear the hub. This one's clear, no problem. They actually look absolutely nice in chrome. I think chrome's gonna be the way to go. And so I'm gonna get a little bit different design than these. Obviously I don't want the same ones, just because that way I can actually switch them back and forth. But just knowing that these fit good, that's what I'm gonna go with, more than likely. I'm still haven't gotten any or anything. But first thing I did was measure from the center to, you know, you can measure to the fender, but I just did a little line here on the quarter panel. This is 15 inches from the center. I do want to keep this right height to start out with, and so you have to measure. That way when you're bolting the coilover kit, this is your starting point. You want to put the differential back where this is to weld everything, and then you have some adjustability up and down. So I did that on both sides. I'm gonna put the jack stands. I'm gonna jack up the car, put a jack stand on the front. On the back, you don't want to put jack stands on the rear differential. You want them on the body because you're gonna take all this out to do the suspension. So I'm gonna put them somewhere out here on the body, out of the way of the leaf spring, because that has to come out. And then we're gonna get started to rip the suspension out of there. I have the car jacked up, so ready to get started. Before we get started, down there, if you have a car that's more complete than this, as you see I have a big hole here, you want to take the gas tank off. It makes it easier to remove the lower suspension according to the instructions. So what I'm gonna do is, because I have all this rusty stuff that's gonna be dropping on my face, I'm gonna grab my cutoff wheel, since I'm gonna replace this trunk pan anyways. As you can see, this is the part where the trunk latches to. It was only attached to my trunk by the latch, so I unlatched it. So I'm just gonna cut, just kind of rough cut here, this middle section that's pretty much non-existent. That way all this junk's not falling on top of me. And then eventually I will replace this trunk pan. I know if I buy the one piece, you know, from what I heard, you can get it in here. And I think part of it's because of this part here. Being that this is gone, I might just try to do it from top here. So we'll see, but I haven't gone that yet. I'm just gonna cut this out first, and then we'll go underneath. I did take the harness for the taillights out of the way over here, and so anyways, I'm gonna do that first, kind of blow, you know, with the air, all this junk out of here, and then we'll go underneath and start taking that rear end off. I went ahead and cut this out so there's more room here for activities, and all this rust won't be falling in my face. I'm sure I'll still get rust falling in my face from the other areas, but at least gives me more of a area here. So next, what I'm gonna do is take these bolts off here for the rear shackle or hanger on the differential on both sides. And then the shocks are already unbolted from the differential. I'm gonna unbolt them from the top. The sway bar, I'll probably just take it off from the bracket that's over there on the frame. And then the front leaf spring mount there's 2 bolts to just unbolt it, and after that the whole thing should be able to just come out. I was just looking, actually looks like a spring is broken right there, so that leaf spring is broken. It doesn't matter, I'm not gonna put that in there, but that's what I'm gonna do next. Hopefully all those bolts come out no problem, and then I'll show you guys once those are off. Okay, went ahead and got all the bolts here for the leaf springs off. The hanger, the sway bar, it has 4 bolts, 1 on each side, to go around the frame here on the bracket. So there's 2 on this side and 2 on the outside. And those were pretty easy to take off. And then I took off the ones for the actual leaf spring bracket, which are these 4 over here. The nuts came out pretty good, so at this point, in theory, should be able to pretty much just drop the differential here. Now let's see if this works, but well, I already see a problem here. It's caught up on the roll pan here on the bottom, so I think what I have to do is pull the bracket out on the front, and I might have to set the camera down. I'm gonna try to pull the bracket forward, let it drop, and then I can go forward a little bit, let it drop from the roll pan, and then roll it out. Well, let's see. I'm gonna put the camera here, and let's see if that works. Lifted the jack a little bit, just that way it has room to move backwards. So I got the sway bar out of the frame. I think that's what was holding up this spring a little bit. Alright, just did the same thing on the driver's side. Something on this side. Oh, the shock on this side is still on the eyelet. I see. Okay. I wasn't letting it go down, so see if I can sap this out again. Should probably lift it up a little bit. There we go. Don't have a junior here today, so it's hard to film and do things all at once. But at this point, actually I need to take the little clip off for the emergency brake cable, and I should be able to roll it out. Tire's taller than the quarter right now, so I can probably just angle the differential so it comes out, you know, out the side here, and then on the back it'll come in, but then the back I should probably be able to roll it out. So let me get those emergency brake cables. You'll have to unhook those and then pull this whole thing up. Okay, got everything out of underneath the car here. So rear end is out, all the brake lines and all that, because I'm gonna run new ones. Fuel line, everything is out. Pretty much at this point it's almost ready to start installing the QA1 coilover kit, which I believe it goes right in that area there. That's where you weld the main part. One thing on the instructions that I read is this is that cross member for the shocks, and that's not going to be used. It says if it interferes with the coilover kit to take it off. So there's a couple of spot welds here, and I think a couple more up there. I'm just gonna go ahead and remove this right away because there's no sense for me to keep it there. After this coilover kit there, I mean, I'm not gonna go back to factory. So I'm gonna take that off, and then probably gonna take these. I think that's kind of like a tow hook. I don't know, but I'm gonna take those off for now. And then I'm gonna clean up the area where I'm gonna weld. And also just start, I have some rust encapsulator that I finally got in. I'm gonna clean everything up a little bit, and then I'm gonna paint a coat here. This area of the floor pan, it's got like surface rust, but it's not rust all the way through like the rest over here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and put the rust encapsulator, put it on the frame after I weld those pieces, and then just put it on the frame here underneath since I have the car up. Also, since I have it up, I want to get my seam sealer and do around that pan over there. So I'll do that as well, and then I'll put the encapsulator on the other cross member over there. Pretty much just to get the underside of here all set. So I'm gonna just finish taking these two pieces off, clean up here the floor. I already cleaned up most of it, but clean up the rest, take this cross member off, and then I'll show you guys where those brackets are before I start welding those on. Got everything cleaned out, got that cross member removed, cleaned up underneath here, went ahead and grinded off all the surface rust on the frame, all clean on both sides here. I know the plate's gonna weld in this area here, but since I'm gonna put the rust encapsulator, I cleaned up everything really good. So this is the piece that bolts on there, so I'm gonna be ready to fit this in here. What I'm gonna do is get some clamps, get my welder out, get this on there, and then weld it on onto the frame. Once I weld it, I'll probably at that point do the rust encapsulator, because I do have the brush on one, and be a lot easier to do it right now than to do it after I have the rear end and everything in here. So I'll do it in this area, and then the frame rails, and just that for now. Everything else, I mean, I'm gonna have to remove a little bit more of this floorboard here, and then here on top have to remove all of it, but just that way the bottom here is all done for now. So let me get this in place, get my welder, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like right before I weld it. Okay, so I have this cross member here, cross member clamped onto the frame rails. That's pretty much where it's gonna be. So I'm gonna get my welder ready and then just start welding. So you have to weld all those holes, pretty much the frame through those holes there, fill them with weld. I'm gonna start here, like where I have it clamped. These ones are pretty good. I'll clamp, weld this one, and then I'll probably move the clamp a little bit further up just to make sure that's squeezed as much as I can get it. This one, so I can probably do all three, the bottom one, and then move the clamp up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and get that done now, weld it in, and then once it's welded, I will go ahead and do the rust encapsulator, let it dry, and then we'll start installing everything. While that dries too, I have to work on the rear end to get the brackets and everything, but that's not the rear end I'm gonna use, the one that came out. I have the other one, so I'll get that one ready, start working on that as well. Got the cross member all welded, so got those holes welded, plugged. I did run a small bead here and small bead there. Same on that side, just kind of extra. That's plenty of welding, I guess, considering well, this is gonna have the upper control arms and then the coil over here. So what I'm gonna do next is get all this cleaned up here on the floor, put away all these tools. I will leave my welder out because I'll have to do the differential, but I'm gonna do the rust encapsulator here with the brush, just that way it gets all this taken care of. Now thinking about it, I should have done this before this cross member, but I can get behind here. It's just a little bit tight space, but I still have room for that. So gonna do that next, and then once I am ready to do the differential brackets and all that, I'll show you that. Okay, so the frame here is pretty much all set under carriage. I did that rust encapsulator, looks pretty good. I do have to spray the area there where I welded, so I'm gonna do that now. And then I got the other rear end out here, so first thing I have to do on this one is remove this sway bar bracket. I'm not gonna use that, so I have to cut it on both sides. And then the other thing I have to do is measure the perches on that one. I think those are a little bit closer, and see if I need to take these off and move them a little bit. From what I did research before, I believe I do have to move them, but I gotta measure all that. So I'm gonna cut these out. I'm gonna remove the cable there because that's cut anyways. And I'm also gonna remove this weird like mount dampener that's on there, because I'm not gonna use that. So gonna do that, and then I'll see if I need to move those bottom ones. Okay, so I cleaned off everything. What I did is I had to remove the spring perch here. It was about this area here on this differential, so I had to move it to the same location as the one that came out of the car. And then I got the bracket here for the coilover, same on the other side. I also removed the bracket for the sway bar that this rear end came with. So as of right now, I just need to tighten these up, and then I believe, let's see, gotta tighten those up. I am gonna replace the gasket here on the cover, so I'm cleaning that up, cleaning the cover, gonna put the gasket, put some oil in there, and then I will go ahead and start lining it up, get the control arms and all that set on there. So I went ahead and put a new gasket, tying it up, filled it with oil so that way I don't forget. Tying these up to 79 foot-pounds, and so this part is pretty much ready. I'm gonna go ahead and start doing the one on the front there. So there's the brackets here, this one's here that go where the factory leaf springs mounted, and I'm gonna bolt those on there. And then after that, I'm gonna go ahead and get the lower control arms ready to be bolted on there. I went ahead and mounted both of these mounts here where the factory location is, and it has new hardware, but it's just bolted on with nylon washers. I went ahead and also mounted the shock mount here with the 2 bolts. So at this point, I'm ready to get the control arms, which are this one's here, and gonna assemble these together with the other end. and then depending on the vehicle you have, there's a certain length that you want to start out with, and from eyelet to eyelet. So just follow the instructions, and then that's where you start. So I have the lower control arms installed here on the bracket where it's supposed to go, and what I'm gonna do now is get the rear coilover set up. So I have the shock here, coil spring, and all the hardware. So I'm gonna get this put together, and that way I can mount them on the car. You don't have to put the spring at this time, but I'm just gonna go ahead and do it that way. I don't have to. I'm gonna have to do it later anyway. So once I get these on there, or put it all together, put it on there, and then I can get the upper control arm all assembled. Once these are welded, I spray painted, cleaned up the axle and spray painted it, the cover and everything, so there's no rust that accumulates. This is pretty much it, all installed. I do need a 4-wheel alignment, but that's not till the vehicle's running. I normally measure with the tape measure everything, and that should get it pretty good to kind of drive it a little bit. But if you're doing this at home, I recommend, if you align it yourself, that's fine. If not, take it to an alignment shop. I'm just gonna I finished tying all the bolts to specs. I just need the front control arm bolts, and you should do those at right height, so with the tires on, but I don't have the wheels yet. But that's pretty much all done under here. Well, the rear coilover kit is all set. Got the control arms, coilover, all set. Overall, pretty straightforward to install. I think the hardest part was to remove that cross member, but just take your time, cut it out, and then welding those tabs on the axle, that's a little bit, I guess, the hardest part, but not too bad. If you have a MIG TIG welder, you can get it done, or even a regular welder, I guess, and get it all. It's pretty straightforward. Taking the old parts wasn't too bad, but I can see where some of them could be rusted or seized, but overall looks good. Once I get wheels and tires, then we'll sit on the ground. At that point, there's a lot of adjustability on the coilovers. I can raise the rear, lower it, and as of right now, I left it about pretty much the same as it was before, but I did cut quite a bit of metal out. There's no gas tank or anything, so I can't really set the right height yet until I have a little bit more weight on the car. But that's it for this video. So this was the QA1 install. Not too bad. If you have any questions, comments, leave them below. Subscribe to the channel. We'll see you next time.